to watch this evolution. Now, the 10 steps is common sense. Anybody could work this out. It begins with separation. If you mix things together, you get waste. If you separate, then you've got resources. There is no answer to the question, what do we do with waste? It's an irrational question, and you get irrational answers. Dumping it into a hole in the ground, putting it into a machine. It's irrational. But once you separate, then the questions are rational. What do you do with paper? What do you do with cardboard? What do you do with metals? What do you do with glass? And so on. So separation, and then make it easy to pick up the different fractions. Door-to-door collection is step 2. And the key for Paris, the key for any major city, the key for any small community is to separate the organics. The kitchen waste, the yard waste, the organics. And there's a hierarchy here. The first thing you want to do with organics is to feed people, if you can. And then feed animals. And then feed the soil. So then we get to composting. And step 4 is then recycling, which I think everybody's familiar with. Step 5, which is less pronounced, I think, in Europe than in the United States, is reuse and repair. Reuse and repair centers, which I would like to see become community centers. Because one of the things that ultimately is the fight against overconsumption. We would need 4 planets if everybody consumed like an American. We would need 2 planets if everybody consumed like a European. Meanwhile, the whole world is copying these consumption patterns, India, China. So at the end of the day, we have to fight overconsumption. But people like overconsumption. We've been brought up to it. By the time a child has left school in the United States, they will have watched 350,000 TV commercials telling them to consume. And so the only thing that I can think of, which is an alternative to overconsumption, which is a life built around objects, working hard to buy what is advertised on television, is other people. Building your life around relationships. And if you're living in a big city, that's difficult. The anonymity of living in a big city. But one place you can change that anonymity is a reuse and repair center, which people go to, first of all, to save money, but secondly, to meet people. And I remember, just digressing a little bit, in Zurich, Switzerland, they have 1,000 community compost plots, which are run by high-rise buildings, anything from 3 to 100 households sharing a community compost. The municipality has nothing to do with it, they're all doing it. They're taking care of 50% of the organics that way. And I asked the organizer a few years ago, I said, what is the best thing that's come out of this community composting? And he said, helps, it's the social ramifications. People meet over the compost pile. It helps to fight the anonymity of living in a big city. Well, if that's true of a little compost plot, then think of how much more it would be if you had a community reuse and repair center, perhaps with workbenches where you can go in, repair things, and people can help you, and so on. So that's reuse and repair. It's low volume, high value. Recycling is high volume, low value. But 1/3 of the value in the discards are in the reusable objects, the furniture, the appliances, the building materials. Step 6, now we start with this wretched residual fraction, the stuff we can't currently recycle, reuse, or compost. With the residual fraction, the first thing is waste reduction initiatives, of which there are many examples in the book. In Ireland, for example, put a tax on plastic shopping bags, and in 1 year, reduced those use of those bags by 92%. Am I going too fast? You can understand? Okay? And many other examples of waste reduction initiatives. And then there is one waste reduction initiative which is proving very effective. And it's actually the last step in many successful recycling programs in Italy, zero waste programs. The last step, after you've done the separation from recycling and composting, you push that to the limits. The last step is the pay-by-bag system. So that the recyclables are free, the compostables are free, but the residuals, the more you make, the more you pay. This can be very sophisticated. You can have a chip, you can have a chip in the bag, and the bag is weighed and you're charged accordingly. But more elegantly, in Seattle, Washington, they have a very simple system. That when they outlaid the system, they said, right, for the residual fraction, you choose what size container you want. You want a small container, a medium-sized container, or a big container for the residual fraction. But the catch was, the bigger you chose, the more you pay. So it's up to you. And so this rewards people for making less waste. And right now, for example, in Italy, they have a very unfair system. The amount you pay on waste is based upon the surface area of your dwelling, how much space you have. Well, this is unfair, because it doesn't reward the people that are consciously making less waste. So that's step 7, the pay-by-bag system. Now, step 8, oh, by the way, we're up to 80% or more. San Francisco is 80% diversion from landfill or incinerator, and over 200 communities in Italy over 70%. Some are over 80%. Some even near Treviso, where you went, over 90%. So, and that would make many communities very happy to be at 80%. Now, if you want to get closer to zero, step 8. When I first got involved with this practice, this issue, 29 years ago, one of the first things I learned was all landfills leak. No matter how sophisticated your engineering, they all eventually leak. And I said, look, if you can't control what comes out of a landfill, then the only way you've got to control what goes into the landfill. And the world has not caught up with that yet. But Nova Scotia has. Nova Scotia is the first jurisdiction that built in front of the landfill a separation facility, a screening facility. The trucks cannot go directly to the landfill for the residuals. They have to go through this separation facility where workers pull out more recyclables, more toxics, and the dirty organic fraction, kitty litter, etc. That is stabilized above ground with a second composting operation, not to produce a product to sell because it's dirty, but to stabilize it above ground before it goes into the landfill. And that's working. That is working now in Nova Scotia. The difference, the next step, is to put into this separation facility a zero waste research center. And this is where you can get really excited. Because I would like to see us bring in at this point professors, students, designers, bring them in and make this a laboratory for sustainability. Start with our mistakes. Bad industrial design, badly designed packages, badly designed products. So you now, with this research team, study our mistakes. And we say to industry, if we can't reuse it, if we can't recycle it, if we can't compost it, you should not be making it. And this is the big advance with zero waste. If you go back before 1996, we would all be talking about, let's do more recycling, more composting. But you notice that all the appeals were what the community was going to do. Industry gets away scot-free. Zero waste is different because the zero waste is demanding not just community responsibility, but industrial responsibility. And this separation facility and zero waste research center is where community responsibility and industrial responsibility come face to face. Now, we haven't yet seen this whole thing put together, but we do have some little zero waste research centers in Italy. There's interest in England, the University of Coventry. But it's beginning. But it's exciting because we need the brightest minds in our society working on this. And I'd like to remind you that the first person on this planet who talked about zero waste was Leonardo da Vinci. 500 years ago, Leonardo said there is no such thing as waste. And you've got to remember, Leonardo copied nature. He looked at a lot of his designs, the bird wing, which was incorporated into the flying machine. He looked at nature. He must have recognized that nature makes no waste. It's a human invention. And now we must de-invent this. We need the best designers, the best industrial designers to design waste out of the system. So everyone's heard of the 3 R's. Now we've got the 4th R, redesign. The community, reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, community responsibility, industrial responsibility, redesign, redesign. The good news is that many major corporations have embarked upon zero waste programs. And these are the corporations that are making durable goods like cars, televisions, copying machines. So they've got a good example. The big problem for us is the corporations that produce throwaway objects, the throwaway packaging, the throwaway plastic, and so on. This is the problem as far as the corporations are concerned. So then step 9 is better industrial design, and step 10 is the interim landfill. We want it, for the time being, the non-recyclables, the dirty organic stabilized fraction, that will go into a landfill. But we want to get that smaller and smaller. We do not want the landfill to be run by private companies. Now, I'm not against people making money, fine. But the message is, if you want to make money in this issue, then make money recovering resources. Make as much money as you like with recycling, with reuse, with repair, with composting, with redesign. A lot of creativity here. But we don't want companies making money out of waste, because that's the way waste will continue. If we want zero waste, we need to get rid of those corporations. So those are the 10 steps. And what I like about it is it begins with everybody.